You retired last year. You played for about 25 years. I mean, that is real love of the game, isn't it?
Yeah, I think a lot of people ask me, how come I played so long? And I think you go through stages. As a player, you sign on, and it's all new. As a professional, you sign on, it's all new, and you're having a great time, and there's no expectation. And then you start realizing, well, this is my job, and different pressures come with that. And then perhaps later on in your career, you come through the other side, and you remember how lucky you are. All your friends are working in offices and doing proper jobs. And so I managed to retain the love of the game, and that's probably why I went on so long.
Well, we'll get on to your career in a moment, but you're a batting coach now for Middlesex, and you do a bit with the England Lions as well. How are you finding that?
I'm really enjoying it. I was very lucky, so I retired in July 2012, and in September I got a call from one of my ex-colleagues, Graham Thorpe, and he said, look, he needed a hand with doing some work with the England Lions team. So I went out to India for a couple of weeks, and then later on into Australia. And so I've been doing some work with them, which I've really enjoyed, building relationships with those players. And then happily Middlesex came along and said, look, would I do some work with them as well? So I'm enjoying, again, being part of that. And I just think you're learning all the time. You draw on your own experiences as a coach, but you learn all the time off the players and off the other coaches around you.
There's a lot of talk at the moment about England being in a transitional phase. What's the talent pool like with the young batsmen at the moment?
I think it's very good. I think it's a really exciting summer ahead because there's going to be new faces in the England setup, and I think it's always fascinating to see how new players will come in and fare. And from a batting perspective, the England Lions went to Sri Lanka for a 5-week tour in January, February, and the standout player was Sam Robson, who is a Middlesex player. And he had a fantastic winter. He's carried that form on, so he's a very strong option for England to perhaps open the innings with Alistair Cook. But there are other players as well, and let's not forget that Joe Root and Gary Ballance, who played in the last Test at Sydney, I mean they're very young as well. I think 22 and 23 before. So let's not forget those.
We've got some young British Asians coming through at the moment as well, haven't we? The likes of Mo and Ali.
Yes, well, Mo was on that trip. First of all, we went to 4 weeks in Australia, in November, December, and then we went to Sri Lanka. And Mo impressed hugely. I think he's now 26. He's matured as a person and as a player. He impressed not only with his batting, which is probably his main thing, but he bowls very, very good off spin, and certainly would be a very good option for England this summer.
How did you get involved in the game? Because your father was Guyanese, wasn't he? So you've kind of you're an Indian West Indian. You're fit in both camps in terms of your culture. Was he a big influence on you growing up?
Yes, huge influence. Always told me how to play, even up until the age of about 35. He was still telling me how to bat. Talks a very good game, which is very important. So he introduced me to the game, really. But I was born here. I was educated here, and my cricket was learnt through a local club. I went to a state school, didn't really play cricket. So the club cricket for me was hugely important. That club was everything. It gave me the opportunity, first of all, initially at under 11s, under 13s, and then progressed through the age groups into the adult sides. And I got to play on a Saturday and Sunday, and I was very lucky that there was a lot of sort of senior pros around to just guide me along.
Well, speaking of senior pros, when you broke into the Middlesex side, you would have been how old? 17 or something like that? And there were so many experienced old heads in there already, the likes of Gatt and John Embry and Gus Fraser, I think was in there. Haynes maybe came along soon after that. What was that like coming into such an established changing room?
Oh, it was absolutely fantastic. I remember walking over as a 17-year-old onto the nursery ground, and all the first team were there, and I'd seen all these international players on the TV representing Middlesex, and there they were stretching and sort of warming up, and I was asked to go and be part of that. So that was a fantastic experience. Even though he's in the room, I have to say that I was very, very lucky to have a captain like Gatting, because he was so supportive to me as a player. And I think I was someone who needed that faith given by someone in, a senior player, and he really helped me sort of get over the fact that here I am playing first-class cricket at Lords, and yet, Gat and the other senior players helped settle me down and to enjoy the game, and I learned a huge amount from the senior players at Middlesex.
Did that accelerate your learning then, having those guys in?
Without doubt, and I think it's such an important thing. I've seen it throughout my career. The senior players in a dressing room are very, very important, because they, in a way, if they're not on board with doing things the right way, they can be detrimental. And so I think as I got older, you start to realise your role, that you are a role model to the people coming in to the dressing room, and that you're trying to do things the right way and set the right example. And of course you learn a huge amount in terms of cricket knowledge, and at Middlesex we regularly in the evenings or during the day's play, you would talk cricket, learn about the game, and that was so important from a development point of view.
Well, he went on to bigger and better things. 52 test matches for England. What was the highlight?
I suppose making 100 in Barbados was, I think everyone's dream is probably to play for your country, and then as a batsman you want to score 100, and so finally I got there in Barbados. That was a very, very special moment. But I think importantly for me, it meant that I'd come through, I live in Harrow, I'd come through the club cricket, I'd gone on to represent Middlesex, and then I was representing England. And I just felt, well, I'm a normal person from a normal household, and look what's attainable. So that was really important, and I'll always sort of remember that.
And then after, the focus was on the 100 hundreds, which is an incredible achievement. Mark, one of only 25 people in the history of the game to have scored 100 first-class hundreds, which is incredible, really, and perhaps it might not be done again. It took you a while to get from 99 to 100 there. Yeah. A few nerves there?
Well, it was different. It was different. I know. It's because normally, it was that in county cricket, you don't generally get too many camera crews coming to the ground, and all of a sudden there seemed, an army of photographers there, and Sky were turning up at every game. Is this the day? And I'm like, I hope it will be. So it was a little bit different, but. It was an exciting time as well, actually, and it took me, I think, 11 innings in the end. But I'm just, again, thankful that I've managed to stay, relatively injury-free. I retained a love of the game, and very lucky to play for so long. I think, it's just been, one of the guys, we walked out and played a game on the main ground at 9:30 today. And a guy said to me, look, imagine having this as your office, and that's how it is. For so long to play cricket at Lords and then the Oval, I'm very lucky. 25
years is a long time. You said you were lucky, but you must have really taken care of your body as well.
Well, I think that's a very important aspect, and certainly one that I want to get over to the young players that I coach, is that you do have to look after yourself. And the game has moved on, it continues to evolve all the time, and the athleticism and fitness of the cricketers is truly outstanding. And if you look at the one-day cricket that's played now, it's such a dynamic format of the game, T20, that they need to be athletic, strong, have speed, power, so those sorts of things. So, nutrition and looking after yourself is very much a part of that, and it's something that we want to make sure that the young players do.
Did the dancing help?
Dancing always helps with footwork. Yes, it helps with the footwork, and that was a great experience, something that I didn't think that I would do. It came out of the blue, really. I was considering sort of hanging up my cricket boots, and all of a sudden this opportunity came along. And I must say, I didn't quite realise what I was letting myself in for, but happily it worked out well, and it was very enjoyable.
Yeah, it worked out more than well. Let's look ahead to the international summer then. England take on Sri Lanka and India. Sri Lanka first. We've lost the T20. 5 ODIs coming up. How do you see those going?
Well, it's hard to call because there's quite a lot of unknowns within the England side. If we talk about the opposition, of course, we know that they have some fantastic players, Sri Lanka, and obviously I was there in January and February, and we see plenty of young talent coming up underneath that Sri Lankan main side. But you know, these guys like Sangakkara and Jayawardene, they are still there and they're still going strong, and I'm sure they'll want to do well in England because it's a great stage here, and for them it's always a challenge. You know, it's always a challenge for English players to go to Asia, and for their players to come here and do well. You know, it's a good challenge, and they're such excellent professionals. I'm sure that they will want to do well.
It could actually be, I suppose, the last time Sangakkara and Jayawardene
Yeah.
tour England. And if you haven't seen them live, you know, they're two guys, especially Mahela, that you really want to go and see. Just great to watch.
Well, they're so good because they really have an artistry about their batting. I think, you know, they're very orthodox, but they do the simple things so well. And again, if I'm coaching young players, then you know, you look towards those sort of examples and say, look, go and watch, go and have a look, because they do, as I say, they do the basics so well, and at the longer format particularly, you know, they've got such good concentration, and they bat long periods of time, but they can translate that to the 50-over game as well, and that makes them really top players.
It's quite an important series, the ODI series, isn't it? Because it's a World Cup next year in Australia and New Zealand. Not many games left for either side to prepare.
Yeah. Look, I think the opportunities this summer for the England players are hugely important, and I really hope that the selectors identify which players they want to pick and then pretty much stick with that group. I think that's very important. There are plenty of talented players. Chris Jordan stands out as someone who I think has a big future, who can play all formats. He's a terrific all-rounder. But there are other players. I'm a big fan of Wokes. Of course, Stokes is not fit at the moment. But any opportunity these guys get to play against such quality opposition will be very valuable.
2 test matches against Sri Lanka after the 5 ODIs. Everyone will be very keen to see what 11 England pick. You mentioned Sam Robson. He's seen at the moment as perhaps the guy who is going to come in and open with Alistair Cook. What's he like as a player?
Well, why I'm a big fan of Sam Robson is in the longer format of the game for Redhotcurry cricket is because he's very orthodox, and I know it sounds a bit sort of perhaps a bit bland, but he has the correct grip. He stands correctly, and therefore he makes life easy for himself. And I see so many young players who don't hold the bat properly, stand in a poor way, and therefore they struggle to be successful at the game. So I'm going to bang on about the basics because they're so important, and Sam Robson does the basics really, really well for long periods of time, and that is why he's such a consistent batsman at the moment.
He's quite old school, isn't he? He's not bothered about
say?
scoring too quickly.
Yeah, well, he might be a bit old school, but old school works, eh?
How about Stephen Finn? How's he doing? How's his recovery coming along?
He's coming along, no question. His confidence is building all the time. Look, when you're that height and pace, you know, you always make things happen. No batsman really enjoys facing that. You know, it's very tough. He had a really torrid winter, really tough time. I think the international spotlight can be harsh at times, and you know, he really lost his confidence over the winter. But he's got some great people that work with him at Middlesex. Richard Johnson, the bowling coach there, is doing a terrific job. They've got him back, you know, going well. He's not. I wouldn't say he feels that he's 100% yet, but I think he's taken 29 championship wickets already, and hopefully he'll feature for England perhaps later in the summer.
After Sri Lanka tour, it's India, of course. 5 test matches, which should be fantastic.
Yeah.
What kind of a threat are India going to pose to a young England side that's rebuilding?
Well, first of all, 5 tests, fantastic. It's a proper test series, and to be a player in a 5 test series, you really have to play well and mentally be up for the challenge, because if you don't do well in the first or second test, you come under real pressure. So I'm so glad that India have got a 5 test series, and I think that the Indian players bring with them a confidence and an energy now. I mean, they've always had great players, but this new breed, led by Virat Kohli, Shikhar Dhawan, Sharma. You know, these guys, I think, are used to playing high-pressure cricket. They can play either format, which I'm a big fan of. They're top players, and they bring a confidence that perhaps other Indian teams haven't travelled overseas with. So, you know, they have some young pace bowlers that, if they stay fit, may present England with a challenge. Varun Aaron is one who's impressed, but you feel that they need to compete in that department if they're going to challenge England. I mean, they've obviously got good spinners in Ashwin and Jadeja, Oja, but it's the seam department. If they can get 3 guys bowling well, then I think England are going to have a real hand.
Of the batsmen you just mentioned, the young up-and-coming Indian batsman, who's your favourite? Would you like watching?
Well, look, they're all easy on the eye, and they produce, don't they? When they get in, they go big. It's hard to select one particular one. Kohli has been truly outstanding in one-day cricket and Test cricket as well. And for someone so young, he's just excelled, hasn't he? So he's very exciting. But they all can get in and be very, very dangerous. And you know, to bowl India out twice will be a fantastic achievement.
Final question from me, and put you on the spot. What's the result?
Series. Okay. Well, 5 Test series. I think I'm going to go 2-1 England.
What surprise you say.